Hello, hello, Scorpio. Welcome to your May 2019 overview reading. This is good for you if you're a sun, moon, or rising Scorpio. And unfortunately, I'm having some tech issues, so I'm going back to my original way of filming, so I hope you guys don't mind. And so I'm not going to be able to fast forward through my shuffling, unfortunately. But I would just like to say that if you're wondering which decks I'm using in this reading, as always, they're listed in the description box if you want to get a hold of them yourself. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I absolutely appreciate all of you. So I hope you enjoyed this reading. Drop a comment if anything resonates. And let's go ahead, take a deep breath into the diaphragm. Notice anything that wants to come up today. Just pay attention to whatever needs to come up. If you have a specific question or information that you would like to have make an appearance, you can make a request for that as well. I'm going to lay this timeline down really quick, and then we will get into the reading. All right, let's start off with a truth bomb. First thing, see what's coming through there. All right, this one wants to come up. If you're avoiding the pain, you're avoiding the joy. Okay, so is there something that you've been meaning to take care of but haven't? You know, that is definitely one element of this card here, is like the avoidance is actually not, it's not going to bring about solutions. It's not going to bring about relief. It's not going to bring about anything like that. So it's exactly like a Band-Aid. Like, would you rather have something looming over your head, or would you rather just rip the Band-Aid off, get it over with, and move forward? Like, that's really what's going to open up a lot more opportunity. It's going to open up everything else in your space. So don't underestimate the value of just leaning into the pain. Like, that's actually what can help you get solutions faster and get clarity faster. So let's see what animal card is coming up for you. Vulture. So this is a highly healing card, definitely, because this is like wounds of the past, the darkness, the fear, the pain, all things Scorpio, right? That's really what's bubbling up to the surface and is begging for your exploration and is begging for your healing. And I would actually make an amendment to this a little bit, even though, yes, you're also avoiding joy. If you're avoiding pain, you're avoiding the healing. The pain is the darkness or the shadow or the pain or the grief or the loss is where everything else blossoms. And so you want to lean into that. And then there's also somewhat of a scavenger energy, of course, being the Vulture card. And so make sure you're kind of going back to things that maybe you set aside. This could even be something like a creative project that you threw away in the past. Go through and evaluate, see if anything is working for you now when maybe it didn't in the past. And then the word of the month for you is revisit. Perfect. That's what this card is saying. Take an old idea out of your notebook and give it life. See if you have the skill to execute an idea once beyond your ability. Continue an unfinished project. Oh my God. It's so funny, like when I start talking about something and then the next card says it in very plainly. So that's what this is really encouraging you to do, is like take those old ideas, take those old concepts and revisit them, because you might actually have what you need now that you didn't before. The central energy for you in May is the 10 of Swords. This is healing, right? So the healing comes through release. And that's what a lot of people don't like at the end of the day. It's like the healing is, it comes at a price, like especially if you're on a healer track. If you happen to be a healer yourself or a practitioner yourself, this work has a price. And so that's what this is shining a light on here. Let me see what else is coming up to get a little bit more context. So it's shifting out. We have the Hanged Man. I'm getting that you were actually running on autopilot. Old systems, old patterns, old behaviors is what was happening in the past for a long time. Just kind of like running on that same layer of information or that same cycle. And so that's what's being broken down. This is where you're going to, I would say, initiate a lot more of the direction that you want to go in. So let me see what the oncoming energy is. We have the Nine of Swords. So still sticking with that fear picture of, there's this trepidation that's kind of looming over here. But remember that you have to lean into the pain and the fear in order to break the cycle, in order to experience, starting anew, starting fresh with the things that you actually want to create. Let me clarify the Nine of Swords. Temperance. So it's definitely not extreme. Remember that your brain is designed to keep you alert and aware of all the potential threats and the things that could go wrong, but that doesn't mean they're real. It just means it's like, yes, there's possibility, but that doesn't mean it has to be what you create, right? I would actually put more emphasis on what you actively want to create and what you actively want to invest in, than exclusively looking at this old pattern, old cycle, old behavior. That's where you're really getting a lot of work done in May, is by breaking down this pattern. It's just about, I think May is kind of a transition month where you go from, running on autopilot, doing the same thing over and over again and like trying to break that cycle. And you do that, but when you get to the core of it, when you put your finger on that wound, it's the most sensitive time. Like that's where you really get broken open, right? And so that's what you have being unearthed in May, is the dismantling of those old cycles. And moving forward, it's kind of like, how are you coping with the fear of repetition or a repeating cycle, even though you might be taking different action? Now, you can expect or anticipate the same thing only if you're not aware, if you don't know what that pattern is, or if you are not doing anything differently. But if you're actively trying to do different things and challenge yourself, that's where you can anticipate finding more balance, more of like a middle ground in between, like, okay, I'm really afraid that this thing is going to happen again, but I'm also open to the possibility of something different happening. And the more aligned action you take in the right direction for you, that's where you're going to get all the good stuff. So the other thing that I want to address here is the idea of fear-based thoughts being manifested. I promise you that just because you have one fear-based thought, or hey, maybe you have like 2 weeks of being in intense fear. That's not common, but maybe you're in like a 2-week period of intense fear. Just because you have that doesn't mean it's going to manifest. It's about actively choosing again, actively like saying, okay, I see that fear, but you don't have to buy into it. And it also doesn't mean that you can't have fear-based thoughts. That's a misconception. This idea that if you think one bad thing, that it's going to come to life. I promise you it will not. Like, if that's all you focus on and you're taking action in that direction, then sure, you can totally manifest that. But this is about, you can confront the fear and do the healing and manifest something new. All of those things are also possible. So don't let anyone let you think otherwise or make you believe otherwise. It's not like you have to be some positivity crusader by any means. That's not That's not a part of the deal. This just is about what you're focusing on and what you want to bring to life now that you're dismantling this pattern, because it's going to split a lot open, and it's going to leave you a lot of wiggle room to create what it is that you want to create. And so it's that dance between, okay, I'm scared, but okay, there might be something different that happens. And when you can strike that balance with this Temperance card, that's when you're going to see things shift. Now, these two cards up here I'm looking at as the external world, so things outside of yourself or what you have reflected back through the external world. The people, places, and things outside of you. 10 of Pentacles, so foundation. I'm not sure if this card doesn't always like to focus, but it really is about, because the snake represents wisdom. So I'm getting a lot of information is going to be coming through in the external world about how you can build a solid foundation. It's going to be probably explicit resources or info or guidance or support for how you can build that thing that you're really wanting to manifest for the long term and big picture. Now, we also have the Queen of Wands. I love this Queen of Wands. Yes, please. Okay, so this is, I'm going to clarify this as well, but it just looks like you have the energy, resources, and support that you need in order to build and create that foundation is available, or it's kind of waking up in May. And then we also have the Nine of Wands. Yeah, so you're able to like move forward with all of that stuff that you've been wanting. Because the Nine of Wands is about progress and high speed, moving in the direction that you're wanting to go, building that reality that you've been seeking. And this has probably been a process that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's so comfy. Healing work is just so easy breezy, and there's no pain involved. Like, come on, get real. Like, this does require a lot of work, and pain is also what allows contrast for joy. If you did not have pain, if you did not have a full spectrum of emotion, you would, it'd be pretty bland and boring. So you can definitely trust this process, and the things that you want to actively build and construct and move forward in for the long term are starting to surface, and they're starting to come your way. So this is really exciting stuff. So I like seeing this because it's like the more of the material side of things and the long-term projects that you have kind of brewing in the back of your mind, or maybe they're in the forefront of your mind. That's what all of this is in service of. Now let's look at your internal process and your internal world. We have the Six of Wands, victory. Oh boy. And then what else do we have? The Empress. Awesome. I don't know how well you can see this, so. But, okay, so this is really telling me that, one, healing is a non-negotiable. That's where I would invest your energy this month as much as you possibly can. It doesn't matter if you're like what type of practitioner you're working with or what you're doing to healing. It can be a book. Okay, like it doesn't need to be anything radical if that's not where you want to put your resources at this time. Although it would be wise to start getting things moving. That's what the Empress is. The Empress is the space holder, and, having high permission to do the healing work that you need to do in order to better your life and experience. And the Six of Wands is the victory card, like being successful at wherever you're putting your energy. So this looks... It looks like you're gonna have some major breakthroughs in May with whatever you're actively pouring yourself into. And the other thing that I'm getting here is that manifestation is going to be on point this month. So if you're wanting or needing something, I would take more of the feminine approach, which is about receiving an attraction. It depends how skilled you are at running masculine energy, but like 85% of my audience is the feminine. It's so that's where it's like you want to be careful with running too much masculine energy in May, because it might actually be counterproductive considering you have such intense healing work to do. And typically that's when you want to go inward and you want to focus on attraction and not push so hard, because that's where it can actually create a repellent, is if you're using masculine in a way where it's just not in agreement with you and you don't have enough energy to exert that. So you want to just be mindful of it. And so manifestation would definitely be one building block to use this month, as well as seeking support outside of yourself. That's another thing that can help expedite manifestations and get things to come in faster. So, you know, keep that in your arsenal this month. But all in all, it looks really good this month, honestly, even though, you know, people will always be angry at the 9 and 10 of Swords is making an appearance here. But this is just about finding a path to get out of the intensity, because it doesn't have to be quite so intense, and it also isn't something that needs to be numbed either. That the solution to pain is not numbing. That's more of like a low grade suffering. So it might not be in your face, but it's like the suffering is going to continue and it's going to perpetuate and it's not going to get you anywhere. So, yeah. All right, let's get into the timeline, shall we? So if you're new to my channel, I start the month here. So this is like the first week-ish of May, second, third, and fourth quarter of the month. So that'll be where you end the month. First quarter, we have the Emperor. So divine masculine. This might actually be, it looks like a person when I'm reading this. It's kind of like someone just has a really prominent presence in your space. Probably someone who's important, or maybe you have a lot of focus on, or who's helping you, or someone, because this can also represent like a father figure. It could also, for some of you, maybe there's a partnership that's really important to you right now, whether it be romantic, business, or platonic. And it seems like the Emperor is also instigating some change, inspiring some healing as well, even though because you can have healing around both masculine and feminine in a lot of ways, but this looks like someone is kind of reflecting back to you on the outside, or is actually supporting you in whatever it is that you need to heal or accomplish. So either of those, it's probably going to be the beginning of May is when you start to see that make an appearance. Quarter two, King of Wands. So this, again, it's like this potent, fiery masculine is in the ether, like it's surrounding you. I don't know how much of this is going to be modeling. Just because you have so much healing, I'm having a really hard time believing that this is something that you're modeling yourself. Only because it's like your internal experience has to do with the Empress. It has to do with success in that healing and in that receiving mode. And so I think that the masculine is surrounding the situation or surrounding you in order to bolster your success when it comes to healing, especially if you're working with like healers who are good at running masculine energy. That can also be really helpful. Or if you have like a lot of it just looks like healthy masculine, healthy power, healthy support and protection. So let's see what's going on in the third quarter. We have 9 of Cups. So make a wish, abundance, wishes being fulfilled. This is definitely where you start to see things pick up the pace. You know, miracles occurring, success occurring. This is like things are really starting to pour in. And remember that focusing on healing, I know that it's easy to write off or say like, well, you know, healing isn't going to make me any money. But remember that, or like give me what I want necessarily. But all of these things work together. Like if you are constantly in fear, or if you are like constantly have this wound that's like festering and you aren't able to shake on your own and you need support with, that's going to affect your productivity. It's going to affect your job. It's going to affect your ability to be present with your family and friends. It's going to spread like cancer, and it's going to affect so much more. And so that's why I'm pushing this idea of healing so much. And that's why we have to have the 10 of Swords and the 9 of Swords. That's where things really emerge. So don't underestimate that. And then wrapping up the month of May, so the final quarter, we have the 9 of Wands. Picking up the pace once again. So it's interesting because you have like so much fire in like surrounding, and in this timeline, it's almost straight fire, except that Cups card right there. But ultimately, doing the work pays off. And I think that if you're investing in yourself a little bit more and like taking good care of yourself and actively manifesting and, you know, focusing your attention on like what you're calling in conjunction with doing the healing work, that's like the way that things really progress for you. That's how you're able to get those rewards. And that is also what helps you to move forward and build the foundation or create the thing that you're ultimately desiring. Now we're going to do a 3-card pick. So you're welcome to ask a question. You can just pay attention to, you know, any card that's jumping out at you. Whoops. Okay. Card number 1. We have Temperance, so balance. It's about push and pull, masculine and feminine, give and take, rest and action. And so this is a good time to start thinking into the gray areas of what you're experiencing. It is not a black and white world. And so this is where the Temperance card can really help us feel into creative solutions, creative problem solving, and experience things in more of a balanced way rather than slipping into extremes, because that's when you start to like either repel what you're calling in or manifesting things that are the opposite of what you want, is when you dive into extremes. So that's where you're able to do some repairing this month. Card number 2, we have the Chariot. You're moving forward in a lot of ways that I think you're not able to see quite yet. There might be a lot of movement under the surface, or you're feeling like you're moving at a really fast pace and high speed, and it might feel a little bit out of control. That's just how healing tends to go, because when you're in the middle of some intense healing, what basically happens is you're trying to get your body, your mind, and your spirit all on the same page, and it takes a while. So if you feel like things aren't totally synced up, that's completely okay. It's a part of the process. And then card number 3, we have the 8 of Vessels. So the 8 of Cups is like changing your perspective. This is also a result of healing, because when you're able to see things in a different light and it gives you a new perspective, that is where you can start implementing new ideas. You can start taking different action that maybe you weren't aware of before. And this is what can help you kind of break through to that new path to success, right? It's not just about like, yeah, you want to change your perspective for you just to have an easier experience, but this also has to do with just how much you're, like where you're going and where you're moving and how you're executing all of this. So all in all, the 8 of Vessels is just serving to push you in the right direction and open up new doors for you. All right, my friends, that is all that I have for you during this reading for the month of May. I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget, if you need to work with me one-on-one, if you need some support or you have a question, just go ahead, check out the description box. All of the links to work with me are down there, as well as social media and all of the decks that I've used. So don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Onyx Healing. And until next time, have a beautiful May, everybody. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.